Hey everyone, and welcome to a special bonus episode of Circles and Squares. This is, of course, the PlayStation 5 console special episode, Kate, because guess what you received in the mail last night? It's your PS5. Oh, hey, yeah, and she's Katie, I'm James. Hey, how you doing?
It is my PS5. Could you imagine you're like sitting outside and I sat by the window all day. Like I had the curtain open, I had the window open so I could see, I could hear, and like could you imagine like a parcel comes but it's like something else? I would have been devastated.
You know, so like I said, you got yours last night. I'm actually still waiting for mine right now, and I'm sitting in a very similar situation in the living room, windows open, waiting with notifications ready. So if at any time during this show I just get up and leave, you don't hear me, I'm going to open the door for my PS5, hopefully. But yeah, so for those of you that don't know us, just you're finding us through the PlayStation 5 content. We're Circles and Squares. We talk about PlayStation every other week, about the games we're playing, the news, everything. So thank you for checking us out. Hopefully you stay around. And we're going to talk about the PlayStation 5 console today, just like the UI and the physical console itself. And then we're going to talk about the games on it on our regular episode on Monday. Sound good?
Mm.
Sounds great.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, sounds good.
Okay.
Sounds good on my end. I mean, I hope yours comes soon, and for everyone else who's still waiting out there. But it's been a little bit of a funny launch.
Yeah,
but we'll all get our consoles, and things will be great.
Cross your fingers for me. So let's get into it, Kate. So we actually unboxed it together yesterday, even though I didn't get mine. So what did you think of just like the box? We'll start there on the very outside.
Yeah. I mean, it was just a box, right? Like, I don't feel like they put in tons of extra effort and
maybe
detail
more so
into
like
the
the
box.
unboxing process.
Yeah, exactly. It wasn't one of those, like, super fancy, like, you order some things and it comes and you're like, wow, this is, like, high quality. They put some effort into the box. Like, it's just a box. It had a handle on it, which is kind of cute and fun.
Very exciting.
So that's probably my biggest takeaway. Yeah, it's my biggest takeaway. It had a handle.
Right? So after we take the thing out of the box, what's the console itself? What do you think? Like, it's huge. I can't believe it. I walked in and I saw the box and I was like, holy shit.
It is big. No, what was really funny is because leading up to it, I was looking at my entertainment system. Like, I don't know where I'm going to put this thing. Like, I don't have tons of extra room. Like, my entertainment stand is like kind of set up into like small little squares. So like the other consoles all have their own little square that they fit into underneath, and it's great. But I was like, I don't know if the PlayStation 5 is gonna fit in one of these little squares. Like, it's gonna have to go on top. I don't know if I have enough like room beside like the TV and like the speakers that it's gonna fit. So before you'd come over while I was waiting for you to unbox it, I'd put the console like still in the box on top of the entertainment stand, and like between the TV and the speaker was like half off of the stand. It was like precarious. It's like, oh shit, like this thing is so big.
It was.
But obviously opening it, thankfully it is a little thinner than the box. It does fit, but like without a centimeter to spare.
Yeah, and it's a good thing too, like having the digital edition. I feel like it looks that little bit skinnier on the base where it doesn't have the disc drive.
Yeah, I guess that's a good thing to point out. We both got the digital, so I mean, the only difference, the only difference is like, we don't have the slot for discs. So, I mean, yours is going to look slightly different, but other than that.
Yeah. But I mean, the console itself, it looks very premium, even though it's kind of tacky in a weird way too. But just like the way that the textures on some of the console is actually like the circles and squares and X's and triangles.
Yeah, I was really impressed with that. Like, we all knew, I'd seen it on the controller, like the back of the grip. If you look really closely, it's the tiny little like circles, squares, triangle symbols. But I didn't know it was also on the console itself. So that's kind of neat.
Yeah, it's just like the theme, I guess. I mean, the PS4 had stuff like that too. They had the cross-shaped screws, I think, on the inside. If you took the case off to cover the hard drive, you could see that too. But yeah, I mean, the console itself, I think, I'm kind of still flip-flopping if it looks a little tacky or a little cheesy, or if it actually looks like, wow, this is really modern and high-tech. I think overall, it is. I think once the novelty wears off and it's not quite as much of like a here's the new thing. Once you're more used to seeing it there, it's just gonna look like any other piece of hardware, really.
Yeah, I don't think it's that weird. Like, it's a little bit like silly looking, but I think it's fine. Like, I don't dislike it by any means. I will say, like, it is big, but because of all like the memes and the jokes online about it being like massive, it's actually like smaller than I expected it to be. But like, had it not have had that lead up of like all the memes of like it's a fucking like refrigerator, like I would have probably like, yeah, exactly, like it's Kaiba, like I probably would have opened it and thought like this is massive, but because of all like the internet like memes and jokes about it, I actually opened it, I was like, oh, it's kind of smaller than I expected.
Yeah. I think it was also smaller than I expected just based on how big the box itself was too, because that box is gargantuan. It's like when you take it out, you notice it's like obviously the extra packaging they put in there to keep the console safe and not bumped around and everything. So I guess that helps. And you know, the other thing I like about the look of it too is the light on the kind of on the inside of the black part, so it kind of projects onto the, how do you explain this? The part that sticks up at the top. And the lights kind of project onto that instead of just outwards at you. I think that's a really modern looking touch.
Yeah, the lights kind of like reflect onto the binder. This is what I'm going to refer to the outside shell.
If this was the
binder.
PS2 in the binder,
that's right.
The
yeah, the PS2
onto the binder.
Inside the binder, and I like it. Like, yeah, if you're like face on with it, you actually don't really see the lights very much. But the second you take like kind of like a side profile, it actually looks really cool.
Yeah. So let's move on to the controller itself, because I think this is, for me at least, the most interesting part of this so far. Like, not that the console is not exciting, but it's just the box you sit there. Like, the controller is I think a lot different than the DualShock, even though it's very same in a lot of ways also, in terms of like the layout. Like, nothing's changed that way, but it does feel a lot different, right?
Yeah, I will say I'm actually really impressed with the controller. Like, I know leading up to it, like, and you know, we all got on board with like the Joy-Con hype and like HD Rumble, and then, you know, this came out and we're like, ooh, this looks fancy and like kind of sounded a bit gimmicky. Yeah. But I will say, like, I'm actually, you know? Yeah, exactly. But like, I'm actually really impressed with the controller, and I will say, like, with specifically the Rumble and the feedback on the triggers. Yeah. I will say, like, tension. This is the first time I've ever felt that, like, and I've always like had Rumble on controllers and I always have those settings turned on and stuff, but this is the first time I ever felt like I'm kind of getting like a tactile sense as I'm playing, and like it's not just gimmicky, like it's actually like part of the experience as I've been playing, which is really neat.
Yeah, I think it really adds kind of that 4D experience. Like, you ever remember going to Disney World and you go to the theater and it's like they had the mice run at your feet and there were little puffs of air, like as you were watching a movie about mice running around. And I just kind of had that similar kind of idea with this in a way where it's like, it's not that, to me, the triggers are very impressive. Like the tension as you're kind of, you know, fighting against a spring or whatever, like that's a really cool feeling. But the rumble itself, I think it is really impressive, but I wouldn't say it's like mind-blowingly good. But I think what it is in combination with what sounds like a more advanced speaker in the controller to make those like closer sounds seem closer to you, plus the rumble, plus like watching what's going on the screen, I think it all adds together and it's like this secret sauce of actually making it makes your mind believe that you're actually holding or like experiencing that feeling. And I think it was pretty effective, at least from what we saw in like Astrobot. Yeah, exactly. And I even I was surprised too, because Astrobot is obviously like, it's a cute game, and we'll probably get into it more on our regular episode on Monday. But it is very much like a tech demo, in a sense. So like it's utilizing all the features of the controller to its fullest. Like it's really giving you everything for those, like the tension on the triggers, and it's, you know, got all a bunch of different areas, like walk through snow, walk through like sand, and like see how that feels different. Like it's very much designed to show off what the controller's capable of. But after you'd left, I played some Demon Souls, and I was surprised by how much the controller was influencing that game as well, because obviously like that's a first party game, it's exclusive to the PlayStation, so you got to assume like they maybe worked with the controller a little bit more than like the average AAA game that's going to come out. But I wasn't expecting it to be so like integrated into the game, but it was. So what exactly did it do in Demon Souls now? Just like yeah, so it was mostly the speaker and the vibration that was a key component, but it just really like hammered home a lot of the subtleties. Like as I'm walking around, I noticed like the sound is really neat and immersive. Like I walked into a barrel and it broke, but the sound of the barrel breaking came through the controller, not through the speakers. So it was like kind of, the sound was like around me breaking it, not like in the world. And then
I've got him. I mean, you can't talk about Demon Souls for me anyway without talking about parrying, because that's all I do.
I bet
But
that
you get
feels cool.
you get the parry, and at least the weapon I had, I think certain weapons have different parry animations, but I have like a dagger, and so you kind of like you stab them a few times, and with each stab there would be like the noise coming through the controller and like a vibration for each individual stab of the dagger, and it was like actually like got a sense of like it being really gruesome, like like there's just so much, like just even tons of like really like there's the big moments with like cutscenes and stuff, and like like a big thing happens and something breaks down a wall and it's like wow, intense. But even just like the subtle things of like walking around the world and kind of like how your footsteps are falling on different materials and floors and stuff, and it was really interesting.
Yeah, I think it's really it, like you said, it just adds another layer to that immersion, right? When especially with like the speaker and then the rumble as well. And I'm just really hoping that this is something that is more around to stay for the longer term, because it's like rumble isn't something brand new. It's not like motion controls, or it's not like motion controls where with the 6-axis like everyone pretty quickly realized like, wow, this isn't actually very fun, or this isn't actually very accurate, right? Like there's very specific use cases where you would actually say you had like a good time being like, wow, that 6-axis game, like look at my experience with Ratchet and Clank, right? Like those earlier ones,
yes,
just crap. But whereas this is like, well, we already know what rumble is. Like the PlayStation 4 controller had a speaker, so we're used to that. These are just normal things that we've had all along, and I think that's why people might actually notice these improvements rather than being like, well, the 6-axis just sucks. Like this is actually like, wow, imagine feeling, the average gamer that picks up like Call of Duty and Madden or whatever, they're going to, boot up Call of Duty and the guns are going to feel different because the triggers have tension depending, like if you have a sniper or a shotgun or whatever it is. And I think they're going to notice that and think it's pretty cool. And I'm just hoping that feedback leads to like more uses of this instead of it kind of just falling off.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's the big thing to kind of take away too, is it's really going to be game dependent. I think too, like some of these things, like it doesn't make sense. Like I haven't felt like the haptic or the like the triggers tension at all playing Demon Souls, but it doesn't make sense. Like I haven't done anything where like I feel like that would be a benefit to have that integrated. So it's just not there. And like certain games maybe aren't going to utilize all these features, and I think it would be like one of those like Nintendo mistakes to like force you to use it. Like every game has to have motion controls, even though like they shouldn't. I think like that's going to kind of be on developers to use this resource effectively and like responsibly. But I think like it's definitely a very powerful tool that can be used well, but it'll also be interesting to see like certain games like you mentioned, like the new Call of Duty and like the guns and stuff, but like if that game's coming out on multiple platforms, it'll be interesting to see like how much use from the specific controller gets put into those games, because like they're going to be developing for a lot of different platforms at the same time, and like not everyone's going to be specifically having this experience with the game.
That's true, but I mean, you never know. Like if it does take off and becomes something that more of like the mainstream or like a lot of people are aware of, I could see it being a thing where what if there's a marketing deal where it's like, hey, you want to play Call of Duty, for example, on the PS4, because if you order it here and you buy this console, you get the enhanced like controller experience, And I think if you can kind of twist it around to almost be a good thing, not like, wow, we shouldn't do this because we shouldn't do this because it's not worth our development time. Like, of course it has to be worth the development time and all that, but hypothetically, if it's not that much more difficult to add it in, I feel like it could become a selling point depending on like how people perceive it.
Yeah, I agree, and I hope that's the case, and I think that probably will be the case for at least like a decent portion of games. But it'll be interesting to see moving.
Yeah, I'm interested to see what indies do with it. I think the indie scene might be the best in terms of like using it effectively, aside from like the PlayStation first party.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it just gives a lot of like creativity. I could see like kind of some games coming out that like might be kind of like niche or sort of novelty games, but like really like are kind of centered around a kind of like specifically like tactile experience might be really neat.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was really good, and I gotta say specifically too, just to shout out because it was so cool. In Astrobot specifically, there's like at the very beginning, you kind of go up against like a bit of a sandstorm, and it's like blowing at you, and there's like the sand, and like the vibration is so like specific and tailored that like it actually gives you a sense of like it feeling grainy. If
Yeah, I
that
wonder
makes
how
sense.
they made it sound like that, because that's pretty interesting to like, because Rumble's like, you don't think of it in terms of like small fine grains.
Mm-hmm. But it was like, it was, yeah, detailed to the point where like the cold blast of air felt different than the sandstorm blast of air, because the sandstorm blast was like, it had like that grainy texture to it. It was really like, I'm impressed. Like, and I think part of it too is like, I might be caught up in the hype a little bit. So like,
Yeah,
you know, like
yeah.
there's that to take into consideration too. It's new, it's exciting, and you know, I'm definitely all caught up in the hype of the new console. But at the same time, like I think it is really interesting, and I'm really excited to see how games utilize these features going forward.
Yeah, no, I'm with you for sure, and like you said, that it's you know, it just leaves a lot to the imagination of like how they're going to use it in the next few years. Like you never know what kind of cool idea they might have in terms of how to use it. So let's move on a bit though, Kate, I think, unless you had something else to say.
I was gonna say, I was just ask you quickly what.
Yeah.
Okay, I was gonna say quickly
Oh,
before
no.
we move on, just what did you think of the actual controller itself, like the feel of it, the like layout, and like actually just having your hands on it?
Yeah, I mean, it's the same layout. If you break it down to its skeleton as the PS4, like none of the buttons have changed position. There's the one extra button for the microphone, which is really, you know, insuspicious or whatever you say, like inauspicious, maybe. Very small, but I really like the PS button. It's got I wish kind of it was colored in the retro color scheme. Maybe that's just me. I think it would look cool, but I like the way it's not a circle. It's kind of cut out like you pointed out before. I think the face buttons look nice. I would have gone for some color, like maybe even just a faint pastel color of each of the symbols, like being colored in instead of just black and white, but that's more of a personal preference thing. They feel good. They feel clicky enough for me. The D-pad feels pretty good also, although I would have to say, like, I want to wait for a game that uses it. Like, I want to play a Hollow Knight or a Celeste or something kind of on a D-pad like that to see how responsive it is. If I had to criticize something about it, I would say two things. The top of it, to me, feels a little bit more boxy than the PS4, like, in a way where I think the DualShock 4 actually fits in my hand a little bit better. But
yeah,
again,
this controller is a little bit larger, I think.
But again, I mean, I've played, like thousands of hours on my PS4 over the last better part of a decade, so I'm sure once we have the DualSense in our hands for a little bit longer, I'm just hoping that, you know, we become accustomed to it and that becomes like that muscle memory, and then it's just as comfortable.
Yeah, I've actually been, as you've been talking, I've actually got both controllers sitting beside me, and I've been like picking one up and putting it down and picking up the other one and like just going back and forth.
Yeah.
And
the last thing I would say too is, like, I think the DualSense and the PS5 actually compared to the PS4, it just has this air of being a premium product a little bit more. Like the DualShock 4, I love that controller. It's still maybe one of my favorites. Like it for sure is, but it does have, like, after you've experienced the DualSense, it does have a bit of like a plasticky kind of quality to it that the DualSense.
Yeah, I agree, and I think that take into consideration too, like my PS4 controllers are like, they've been used a lot. They're like kind of old. They've been, you know, gotten a lot of use out of them over the years. But definitely, yeah, this feels like a bit like of a higher quality kind of like material that was used. But I think they're both comfortable. Like, I think I'm gonna keep my PlayStation 4 controller at my computer because I use it for, you know, any game I play on my computer pretty much. I use that, so I'm gonna keep that there, and I'll still use it. Then obviously, like, this is gonna be the DualSense is gonna be my new controller for the console, and I'm happy with it. Like, it is a little bit larger than I would prefer, but I think I have small hands, so for the average person, it's probably going to be great.
I was going to ask you about the other. I said I had two criticisms of it. My other one was actually going to be that I wish they had maybe done something to make the sticks feel a little better. I mean, they do have that kind of textury grip around the outsides of it, but to me, they're just like very, very, very similar to the PS4 sticks, and that's the part of the DualShock 4 I thought could have been maybe improved, like especially when you compare it to Xbox. And I mean, even Nintendo's Pro Controller has like somewhat comparable control sticks. I would have liked something a little bit like more premium there instead of just basically a very similar feeling stick, but maybe that's just me.
Yeah, I think that's fair. They feel a bit more like, the one upside is they feel a bit more grippy, although that could be maybe like, you know, like I said, the other ones are old, and like I think also there's a little bit more tension to move it around, but then at the same time, like, that might loosen up over time as well. So I think they're serviceable, like they're comfortable because it's what you're used to. But yeah, I agree that it doesn't really seem like they changed much. But at the same time, I'm not really 100% sure what I would want different.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm just spitballing ideas here. I just would have liked to maybe see a bit more of an upgrade, because I feel like every other part of the controller compared to the PS4, it feels a lot more premium, whereas the sticks feel the same. So I just was hoping for maybe like a more, I don't know if I wanted like a stiffer kind of spring in there, or like a different feeling grip or what, but just something else maybe. But it's a small gripe. Like, it's a great feeling controller nonetheless. But maybe now's a good time to talk about the UI. Got that controller stuff off the chest. So we had that presentation revealing the UI the other day, but in terms of like how it feels and how snappy it is to use, like what do you think of it so far?
So far I really like it. I would say like my opinion of it has not really changed since we got a view of it before the console came out, which is a good thing. My like big keyword I would use for describing it is still the word clean. Like, I think it's nice. It's familiar coming from PS4. It's simple and it's kind of like minimalistic, which I appreciate. It doesn't feel as cluttered, although we'll see if that changes when, we've got more games downloaded and things actually like taking up space. The biggest improvement I really like, and it's a subtle thing, but they've got that different bar for media and for games. So if you go to the very top of your console and you either choose games or you choose media, and like then your screen just shows those things, which I really like, because I found that on the PS4 like everything kind of just got like all thrown together in one space, and it was cluttered and unorganized, and it was just kind of annoying to navigate, or you had to spend lots of time like manually going in and like making folders to organize it yourself, which was a bit tedious.
Yeah, but even with the folders on the PS4, like it would just show your most recently used thing at the front of the cross media bar. So if you'd been watching a bunch of different TV services or something, they would show up before your games. Whereas on this, like you said, you can just switch back and forth between, hey, I have games, and then on the right side media. So and then within that, it'll just list all your games and not show any of the apps. So I think it is, like you said, a lot more clean.
Yeah, and I like too. My concern when we talked about it before, if you guys remember the previous episode, we were worried that when you go to a game, there might be like a little bit laden with ads, or like, like just a bit too many pop-up things like, hey, buy this similar game, or like buy this DLC, or like check out these streamers. Like that was kind of our concern, was like how much information are we going to be bombarded with? But I'm pleasantly surprised that that's actually like, that concern was not founded. So when you are on your screen and you're like scrolling through your games, for example, it just shows you a really nice like clean picture of the game, and then there's the option to play it or like view more options, and then you actually have to like intentionally yourself scroll down to get to where it will suggest like Twitch streams of the game, or like various things for the store. So I really like that it's not in your face. Like you just have this nice clean like picture, like, and the button to play the game. And then if you want to see extra things, it's kind of on you to like click that you're going to look for that, which I really appreciate, because, you're not like laden down with ads and, like spend your money here kind of stuff.
Yeah, I'm hoping as we go forward, it doesn't become more and more cluttered. Like, obviously it will, because we're downloading apps and whatnot, but I mean, there's always the potential that Sony might change the layout or start putting like those PS Now ads and stuff in there, or, installing those kind of like, it's a sale apps, which have been appearing on the PS4 for the last year. And I'm wondering how long it is till we see that, because obviously they're not going to have it this simple forever, I wouldn't expect. But I mean, as of right now, like, it's very clean. I like how the logos for the games and the icons are much smaller, so it leaves a larger portion of the screen to show the art for whatever game you're hovering over. And I think the art, I mean, it's just so beautiful. It looks so impressive. I'm so glad it spends more time on the screen, and it doesn't autoplay the video of the game anymore either, which is really great. I don't think it does anyway, does it?
No, it doesn't. And yeah, like you said, it's gorgeous too. Like I've never wanted to buy a 4K TV. Like I have a nice TV. It's quite big. I'm very comfortable with it, but like, man, I'm like, damn, I should get a 4K TV, because like everything has looked absolutely gorgeous on it so far. But I'm like, shit, what would it look like if it was actually true 4K?
Yeah.
But yeah, the other one thing of the UI that I will say I'm really impressed with, before we get into like, speed and how it actually works. But on the media tab specifically, like when I went on my PS4 in the media, like it shows a bunch of apps I don't have downloaded. And I don't know if there's a way to get rid of it or what, but like I'm looking at all these like, you know, like Disney Plus, like Crunchyroll, like all these extra media apps, like I don't have those, but they all will just show up. Whereas like on my media now, it's just like the couple specific ones I actually will use and have intentionally downloaded, and I appreciate that because I'm not going to accidentally click on like Disney Plus when I just want to go to YouTube.
Yeah, absolutely. So the other thing I wanted to mention actually too, and I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head, but it's the little menu bar that comes up at the bottom if you hold the PlayStation button down, and it's got like the switcher in there and your games hub and your friends and your parties and everything.
Yeah, so it's actually really nice. Like instead of pressing the PlayStation button and it bringing up like kind of that like big menu that takes up a large portion of the screen, it's just this nice little bar on the bottom that it's not really like intrusive.
Yeah, I like how it overlays with everything though. Like we said in our reactions of when they showed the UI video, it very much like tries its very best as a console to keep you in the game you're playing and pop up menus and stuff around that. Whether it's the little menu coming up from the bottom or like the cards poking in and out. Maybe we can talk about those in a sec. But I feel like unless you like purposely and intentionally back yourself out to the home screen, it keeps the game on your screen as much as possible, which I really like.
Yeah, I agree. It's not in your face and it is subtle. I think, yeah, the pinning is cool too. We did, we played a bit of Astrobot and we opened up kind of like that media tab and it gave us like trophies that we could work towards based on what area we were in and like a video of how to like find a certain thing. So we clicked on that just to see, and like we could pin it to the side of the screen and keep playing while the video played. So that's really cool. I don't know how much use I will really like get out of that because
yeah, I think it's
I just don't really see myself like looking a lot of stuff up as I'm playing. But I think it's really cool and it's integrated really well. So like if you do use it, it's pretty like convenient.
Yeah, it's the kind of thing that you just wonder how many devs are really going to support that, because they would have to make the time to put the videos in, unless it's like user generated content, but then you're going to start having all other kinds of problems where it's like, well, is this actually what I'm looking for, or is someone just messing around, you know? And what kind of process that is.
Yeah, it seems like right now it's like stuff that the devs have put in, like they're like pre-made to go in there, but I think it'd be cool if there was like a way to have like community content, and I think like maybe you could like upvote or downvote or like rate whatever the quality of it is, so that way like it kind of keeps content on track and relevant instead of just like, you know, everyone and their moms made like a little video.
That's fair. That's fair.
So far it's neat. Like I don't know if it beats just like Googling something on my phone quickly if I have a question.
Yeah.
But like it's kind of cool, I guess, in the sense where like you could pop it up if you're not necessarily looking for something specific, but if you pop it up and there's like, oh, you can get this trophy by doing X, and it's like, oh, I didn't know about that trophy, so I wouldn't have gone out of my way to Google it, but like now I know I'll do this trophy quickly while I'm here. So I think that's like the one way I might use it and might be kind of useful.
I think it just comes down to, yeah, what's your specific use case for what specific game you're playing? Are you trying to get all the trophies in this game and find hidden collectibles, or are you just playing like online, or do you know what you're doing? You don't want a guide, like whatever it is. And I just hope that whatever functionality that we end up wanting these tools for, I just hope like Sony lets us have as much customization as we need to get the functions we need out of it easily. And I think they will, right? They usually listen to community feedback for a lot of things. Sometimes they don't, but for stuff like that, I think they could.
So far it seems good. One of the things I noticed, because I was kind of playing around with it a little bit after you'd left as well, is I noticed like in the settings, there's actually, for that media tab, there's spoiler settings.
Oh, awesome.
So you can change things and like what shows based on like, I don't want to see anything that could potentially be a spoiler. So it would be interesting to see like what it will quantify as spoilers, and like what it will show versus not show, depending on how you change those settings. Right. And like how useful they'll be. But I think that's a really cool thing to add. Like I don't want to see anything that could like be a spoiler, because like it would suck to open that tab and then accidentally see something that is negative for your experience.
Yeah,
so,
well, that must be vetted by
I thought that was like a really cool feature.
Yeah, I would imagine the developers are in there like deciding what is and isn't spoiler tagged for whoever's making those instructional videos. But you're right, stuff could slip through the cracks, or people have different interpretations. So that'll be cool to see actually if that works. One other thing about the UI and I guess the console's menu and all that stuff I wanted to shout out quickly is I really liked what we saw from that they included quite a few accessibility options, like for the console itself, in terms of like the colorblind mode, and the text to speech seems like you can get it working really easily and for everything. So I mean, I'm not someone that uses those features, but I just hope that they're very useful for those that want and need and use those. So I think that's really great to see. And also, I think you can set up the settings to be universal among all your games. Like, isn't there something where if you want to play every game on hard, for example, you can set your console difficulty default to hard, so it just makes that the option when you start a game?
I haven't seen that specifically on my console. I went looking for that, but I think I've seen that online, so we can double check on that. But it is really cool, and yeah, the accessibility options are awesome. And it gets like really granular too. Like you can even change like everything is customizable. You can turn like the vibration totally off if you don't want to bother with it, or like the haptic feedback, you can turn it down to be like not very strong if like, that might be a little bit like intense for some people. And like, I think like the more customizable options, the better, because you can tailor it specifically to what's comfortable for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Is there anything else you wanted to mention about the console?
I will say I'm impressed with the load times are really fast.
Yeah, that's something we didn't talk about yet.
Yeah, booting up into both games I've played has been extremely quick. And also like going to the menu and like doing anything else, like going to the menu when you're in the middle of a game and like looking up a video and then coming back in, it's like instant that you're back in the game. So I think, that SSD they've been touting for the past like 6 months or however long, like, yeah, it seems to be working fine so far.
I'm interested to see what it's like to play a PS4 game on there, because I mean, we know how we're used to how fast those load, and I just would love to go back and see like what's a game I know really well that has some load time issues, and like try it out.
Bloodborne.
That's a good one.
Don't worry, I'll be testing out Bloodborne. It was known for its rough load time, so we'll see how much improved that is. But
there you go.
But yeah, so far I'm really impressed. Like, it's been one day of having it, and I'm sure I'll get some more nuanced opinions as it goes. But so far, it's been fantastic, and I am so excited to get back to play some more games.
Yeah, well, I'm excited to get mine delivered hopefully pretty soon, and start setting it up, get into all that stuff as well. But one thing I do want to talk about, and I guess this is probably the best place to do it just before we end the show here, is I actually have the PS5 3D Pulse headset, which came in the mail, and that's my one PS5 possession right now, so maybe I can talk about it a bit here. I do want to start off by saying that I think mine actually has a glitch or like some kind of defect, because it's when I'm using it with my PS4, which I've been doing quite a bit, playing Apex and all that, I found that the audio like just disconnects from the console very briefly, like it cuts in and out, like if you're having Bluetooth problems. So I've been experiencing that, and it's been kind of annoying, to say the least. So I'm hoping to get a replacement one in here. But in terms of the headset itself, I'm not like an audiophile in terms of, you can probably tell by listening to this podcast. If you are, there's a lot of audio issues sometimes and whatever. But I mean, to my ear, maybe that's a bit harsh. I think we sound pretty good. But the headset sounds good. Like the 3D audio, I'm excited to see how they're using that for the PS5. It's comfortable. It's got pretty easy to use buttons all on the left-hand side. I've had no issues with the battery life, although maybe I will once I get the PS5, because I'm going to be playing forever. But I would recommend it if you don't have a headset you like for your PlayStation and you think it is something you would want. I definitely think that what I've seen online and kind of my perception is it feels like it should be worth probably more money than it is.
Right, assuming that it doesn't cut out and it works properly.
Yeah, assuming that, but I mean, I'm assuming mine is just having a little bit of a temper tantrum, and most people aren't having that, because I've been Googling around and I haven't seen anyone else with that kind of issue, at least not posting about it or looking for fixes. So that must be good news. I'm excited to try it with the console though, and just kind of see the upgrade. I do wish it connected via like Bluetooth though, instead of having the little receiver, because that takes up one of the USB ports on the console. But I guess the PS5 has a USB-C. Is it USB on the console though, or is it USB-C to USB-C?
So it has, on the front, it has a USB and a USB-C. Right. So the the cord that comes to charge the controller is it plugs in USB onto the console, and then USB-C onto the controller.
Yeah, of course. So that'd be fine.
You could not plug in. Yeah, there are more USB ports on the back though, so you could still plug in your headset. You'd plug it in on the back and then have like the front if you needed to plug your controller in.
Yeah. So
you wouldn't be like caught that way, but yeah, I think it would definitely at least take up one slot.
Yeah, that's fair. Well, either way, let's hope I get this sorted out here. But yeah, I like the headset. I think you should get one. I don't know. It depends if you want.
Yeah, I'm considering it. I don't tend to play tons of like online stuff.
Well, that's the thing.
On console.
I don't play a whole ton online. Maybe right now is a bad example, but I mean, not even just for online stuff. I think I've been someone that only got into using a headset like my old one a couple years ago, or maybe even last year is when I really started using it a lot. But ever since I've been using it more, just the way that you can hear your 3D audio and whatnot around you, and just hear like the more of the sound placement of things, it's totally changed games for me anyway. And like even for single player stuff, I use it a lot of the time now.
Yeah, that's fair. I might be converted if I were to get one, but right now I have like nice speakers that are hooked up to my TV that like, goddamn, I'm gonna get my worth out of them, and like they're nice. But like, yeah, maybe a headset would be good.
But yeah, Kate, any final thoughts before we head out of here today?
I think I've pretty much gotten my worth out of it. There's definitely like still stuff I want to play around with a little bit more, and I've got to do like the media, like the data transfer from PS4. I did look into it yesterday, but it was like gonna take 7 hours or something stupid, and I was like, nah, I'm gonna play my games and like not bother with that. So there's definitely still like a few little things that I want to kind of like play around with, but so far overall impressions are very positive.
Yeah, that's exactly how I feel too, and I'll probably do my data transfer overnight or something. I don't know, I'll figure it out after I play Spider-Man later today. But yeah, I think that's going to close us out for our special PlayStation 5 episode. So thank you again for joining us. We hope you will continue to follow us. The best place to do so would be our Twitter account at CANDSpod on Twitter. We tweet about all the shows we've done, and we have a link tree over there as well, so you can find us on all the platforms wherever you want to consume your podcasts. We have podcast services, YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, wherever you want to follow us. We're there on Linktree, so find it over there. Again, that's at CANDSpod. Thank you again for joining us and listening in, and we'll see you again on Monday, November 16th to talk about the games we've been playing on the PS5. The intro and outro music for Circles and Squares was produced by friend of the show, Matthew Chan. Interlude music is from Scott Gratton of the Free Music Archive. Our channel art was created by @Unreasonable on Twitter, and our brother Alex is the designer of the Circles and Squares logo. Thank you all for listening and supporting the show.